In his book, Traitor King, Andrew Loney chronicles the lives of King Edward VIII and his wife Wallis Simpson after the abdication. The Duke and Duchess of Windsor were exiled from Britain after Edward chose to give up the throne in order to marry the twice-divorced American socialite. Edward and Wallis spent most of their time in France, residing in a luxurious private estate just outside of Paris. And as Mr. Loney discovered, the couple were even a subject of interest to intelligence services there, with the discovery of unknown files suggesting that there was ongoing observation. Some of the reports compiled by French spies shed further light on Wallis' relationship with Jimmy Donahue, a known playboy who had befriended the Windsors in 1950. Donahue was heir to the Woolworth family fortune and lived an extravagant life at the heart of New York high society. Until he met Wallis, Jimmy's romantic pursuits were exclusively homosexual. He was a gay man living at a time when homosexual activity was still illegal, so, as arranged by press agents, he was often seen with female escorts. Jimmy claimed he had a 4-year affair with Wallis, an assertion that was verified by Lady Pamela Hicks, daughter of Earl Mountbatten of Burma, a cousin of the Duke of Windsor. Mr. Loney wrote, Jimmy intrigued Wallis with his unpredictable and flamboyant behavior and the fact that he was the opposite of her husband. Where Jimmy was carefree and impulsive, the Duke was organized and precise. Where Jimmy was generous, the Duke was penny-pinching. Where Jimmy was exciting and cheerful, the Duke was dull and depressed. Where the Duke reminded her of her age, Donahue made her feel young again. She had had to entertain the Duke for the last 13 years, now Jimmy entertained her. Tired of emotionally supporting her husband, she relished being swept up in Donahue's dynamic and spontaneous world. She gave herself willingly to the charms of Jimmy Donahue, says Grace, Countess of Dudley. It is easy to see why. He was very amusing. Elegant Kate told to ignore provocative Meghan and Harry as new royal rift explodes. Royal fans have praised Elegant Kate, Princess of Wales, and suggested Meghan Markle has been provocative following the latest release of the Duke and Duchess of Sussex docuseries. After the second volume of their documentary series dropped, Harry and Meghan have made headlines across the world as they delve into the reasons why they left the royal family. Read more here. According to the 2013 Amazon Prime documentary, The Royals, the Duke was hurt by his wife's extramarital affair. Wallis biographer, Anne Seba, said the affair caused enormous sadness to Edward. People who saw him at this time talked about his desperate hangdog expression, how terribly sad he was, she explained. There was no way they were going to split up, no way they were going to get divorced. Nonetheless, Wallis and Jimmy's affair continued throughout the early 50s, with the Duke trailing in their wake, and Mr. Loney recounted a particularly humiliating moment for Edward that took place on December 31, 1953. The affair, reached a notable humiliation on New Year's Eve, he wrote, when the couple were photographed sitting awkwardly in the El Morocco nightclub on a zebra-striped throne and, to widespread laughter, being crowned with paper crowns by Jimmy. The following year, Jimmy chartered a yacht to cruise around the Mediterranean, visiting Rapallo, Capri, Naples, Ischia, Ponza, Livorno, and Venice, where they stayed at the Greedy Palace, a 5-star hotel in the heart of the city. However, according to Mr. Loney, tensions between the three were mounting. Jimmy was bored by them, he wrote, not least stuck playing gin rummy with the Duke afternoon, adding that the millionaire had become annoyed at their sponging. This all came to a head during a 5-night stay in Baden-Baden, Germany, when Jimmy took exception to a disparaging reference by Wallace about his breath. "He kicked her under the table, leaving her bleeding and her stocking torn," said the author. It was the final straw for the cuckolded Duke, who told Jimmy to leave. After the summer of 1954, there was no further contact between the Windsors and the Donahues. Wallace made no reference to her former lover in her memoir, with Jimmy airbrushed out of the Windsors' lives. 12 years later, in December 1966, Jimmy was found dead by his mother in their apartment on Fifth Avenue. While the official explanation was acute alcoholic and barbiturate intoxication, suspicion was that it was suicide. In his bedroom were found 13 framed photographs of Wallace, wrote Mr. Loney. Edward and Wallace lived out the rest of their lives in France. The Duke was diagnosed with throat cancer in 1971 and died at his home in Paris on May 28, 1972. Wallace died at her home in Bois de Boulogne 14 years later on April 24, 1986. Originally, the couple planned to be interred together in the plot of Mount Green Cemetery in Baltimore, U.S., but Queen Elizabeth II allowed them to be buried at Frogmore, in the Royal Burial Ground. Traitor King, The Scandalous Exile of the Duke and Duchess of Windsor was written by Andrew Loney and published by Blink Publishing in 2021. It is available here. An updated version was published earlier this year.